Hi guys and welcome back. Today we are going to talk about Harmony HP2A. It's a preamplifier with a headphone amplifier on board. And it's priced at $2,700. It's coming from the Laiv, same brand that made Harmony DAC that I reviewed earlier this year. And I raved about it. I really loved it. And basically nowadays, currently, I'm using Harmony DAC in my home setup as a reference DAC. I had some short affairs with other DACs, but Harmony survived as a long-standing favorite, and as I said, I'm still using it nowadays. So I was quite hyped to see what they can do with a preamplifier and a headphone amplifier. So what you get is a preamplifying section that is done without gain, but it's not passive either. It's a buffered stage using Class A design. And attenuation is done by using R2R network, which is a really precise, non-deteriorating, like analog potentiometer way to control your volume. Now, given a compact size of this device, which is half of the regular big hi-fi component, and it's very nicely stackable with a DAC, by the way, we do not have much space in the back. So there is one set of balanced XLR analog inputs, then one set of balanced XLR outputs and analog RCA outputs. If that's okay for you, it's perfect. But if not, you can separately purchase this extender. It's a small unit that sits next to your preamp. And by using this interconnect that is also provided, it feels really high quality and robust. You connect it to the same appropriate connection on the HP2A, and then you gain one additional balanced input and one single-ended RCA input, which makes for 3 different analog inputs in total and for a more versatile device regarding inputs. Now, the front of the device is very straightforward. We have a monochromatic OLED display with big digits. They're quite readable even from far away from the couch. And one selector that lets you choose, would you like to use a preamp outputs or headphone outputs? Then there are 3 different headphone outputs. One is single-ended, 2 are balanced. And this one has considerably more power on its balanced outputs, so I strongly suggest to use them. If you are in a situation to buy this kind of preamplifier and headphone amplifier of this price, there is no excuse for you not getting balanced cables to use with your headphones and utilize the full might of this headphone amplifier. Also, just like with Harmony DAC, there are few physical buttons here and the volume knob, so you can control the unit completely directly from the front panel. You can also use a provided remote control to do that. It's the same as for the Harmony DAC. In fact, you can use only one of these remotes, and there is a switch on top that lets you toggle between a Harmony DAC and Harmony HP2A, and that works great. The device itself, same as a Harmony DAC, high quality premium materials. You can choose either black or silver color with some brass accents. Some people like it, some don't. I personally really like this kind of style and design. And in reality, in person, it feels really high quality and really premium. Now, I already mentioned how preamplifier is done, but the headphone amplifier itself is a powerhouse. It uses Axicon MOSFETs, 4 per channel, 8 in total. And if you're not familiar with that, those MOSFETs are usually used for speaker amplifiers. So this thing is a powerhouse, and it can deliver up to 11.5 watts or something like that. And an interesting thing is that it can also provide really high voltages. Now, if you connect it to a DAC with a very standard industry level line output of 4 volts, this amp will provide 20 volts at its output. But if you maybe have a DAC with even higher line level output, this amp can accept all the way up to 12.5 volts on its inputs. And in that case, it can output astonishingly high 60 volts to your headphones. And this is needed for some voltage hogs of headphones, Most of the headphones out there on the market are not that demanding, but some very, very demanding niche, the end-of-the-line products can be. And interesting thing is that there is no gain setting. Gain is always set at fixed 12 dB. And as I said, this is a powerful amplifier. The idea behind it is to actually be powerful enough to drive any demanding headphones on the market. But that means that it's not suitable for in-ear models or any other highly sensitive headphones that can exhibit background noise and hiss when connected to this amplifier. As I can understand it, it was a deliberate decision between choosing parts and components that would result in a lower background noise that would be more suitable for these highly sensitive headphones, or choosing these powerful MOSFETs that have slightly higher background noise but deliver much more power and authority. As far as the menus and settings goes, there is not much to talk about here really. As I said, gain cannot be adjusted. You can dim the display, you can turn it off, you can set it to dim or turn off automatically. And there is one convenient option that you can set this preamplifier or headphone amplifier to have a safe volume level. So for example, if I go very high with volume and then I turn it off and I forget that maybe. So next time I power it on, it will go to my safe choice, which is -30 dB, and you can choose that to be -10, 20, 30 or 40. It's a very convenient thing and it can sometimes save your ears or headphones or speakers if you are testing a lot of things and you're not careful. Now, all of that said and done, let's first talk about how it performs as a preamplifier. When I hooked Harmony as a preamplifier in my main room setup, I was immediately surprised by how good it actually performs. I didn't realize at that moment, when I connected it for the first time, that it was actually built to be a great preamplifier first and the headphone amplifier second. It's usually the other way around. But I was immediately struck by how this preamp is not underperforming compared to my own personal preamplifier reference. We'll get to that later. For now, let's start with tonality that is like mostly really neutral. If there's any slightest deviation from it, I could maybe say that Harmony sounds just slightly mid-range centric, with really open, forward, rich mid-range, with plenty of details and just fantastic harmonic richness. I guess it's no coincidence they choose to name their products Harmony, because the DAC had that same kind of character and now the preamplifier too. The bass line is deep, it's punchy, it's fantastically controlled and grippy and reveals lots and lots of tone texture and inner tone detailing. Transients are crisp, clear. There is no any sort of lagginess or muddiness happening here. But the thing is that despite all of those details and inner tone detailing, Harmony HP2A never sounds overly edgy, over-sharpened, or glary in highs. It sounds fantastically natural, and it's capable of revealing that many details without ever sounding sharp and edgy. And that is fantastic. It's something that only the best hi-fi devices can truly achieve. And once again, not to forget highs, it's basically the same thing as for the mid-range. They're very open, airy, very revealing. There's great detail retrieval there, but no harshness, no edginess, no glare. We are just talking about super open and airy highs without any sort of edginess. Tonality aside, sound staging is also impressive. Soundstage is both wide and deep and even tall, because those highs, those airy highs, they open up the soundstage in a way that you feel there's a lot of air and it's big, breezy soundstage. So this preamp goes about soundstaging in a way that a really great R2R DAC goes about it too. It's big, enveloping, it extends not only in between your speakers, but it can stretch both left and right. Yes, good recordings, when paired with great hi-fi, can do that. Soundstage can envelop and be bigger and wider than your speakers, basically. If you, for example, use most of the DACs out there on the market connected directly to a power amplifier, you'll get really crisp and clean sound, but it will be thin, kinda lifeless, and soundstage will be narrow. And good preamp expands the soundstage, and it makes tones more palpable and believable and just more physical in space, more lifelike. You feel more like musicians are in your room and not that you're listening them from some thin digital recording. And Harmony HP2A is doing that. And as a cherry on top, it's also a dynamically very capable preamp. It can hit hard, it has scale, it has dynamics, it sounds great with all kinds of recordings. And I quickly compared it to a few other preamps. So first, very short comparison was with Aune S17 Pro, that is also a mighty headphone amplifier that can also work as a preamp. But there was no comparison. S17 Pro as a preamp sounded flatter, not as deep, not as wide, and also dynamically flatter, and just more gray and not as big, widespread, lifelike, open, airy, breezy, and detailed. So Harmony headphone amplifier is on another level compared to S17 Pro, and I'm sorry to say, but there is no comparison there. Now, because of that, I quickly compared it to Ladder Bach, which is a $950 dedicated preamp only, without a headphone amplifier. And that one did put up a better fight. Unlike Aune S17 Pro, it's actually capable of creating very nice, deep sound stage, and even cleaner, more energetic, more three-dimensional tones. But when compared directly to Harmony, it cannot match, first, it cannot match its just sheer resolution and how many details you can hear. That's simply more on Harmony. Then the soundstage is wider, airier, and bigger with Harmony, and inner tone detailing and inner tone texture is richer. Those harmonic overtones, if you listen to vocals or brass instruments, anything like that, everything just sounds richer with Harmony than it does with Ladder Bach. Which led me to my last comparison with my own personal preamplifier reference, Acoustic Invader Fulcrum, that goes for 6,300 euros. So it's a very pricey premium preamp that I have been using for some time now, and I love its sound. If you watched that review, you already know that it has huge soundstage, rich tone, good bold sound with great dynamics and authority, and I was really surprised. I simply didn't expect for Harmony preamplifier to be on that level, but it is. It's in the same tier as my own, like twice, 2.5 times the price preamplifier. We are talking about similar soundstage, similar tone richness, and just how big and palpable and realistic everything sounds. And if I had to nitpick, I do still prefer Acoustic Invader Fulcrum because of a slightly more authoritative and bolder bass that has more slam, more thunderous impact with bassline. Harmony preamplifier, in a direct comparison, feels just slightly more light-footed and less thunderous, less authoritative with its bass, slams, and kicks. But aside from that, we are talking about equally resolving mid-range, equally rich harmonic overtones, equally big, airy, wide, deep sound stage, and basically same tier of performance. So Harmony HP2A is simply a fantastic preamplifier. If it was a dedicated preamp only without headphone amplifier, I would still say, wow, this is a fantastic preamp, highly recommended. But let's move to that headphone amplifier now. So moving to the headphone outputs, I think that most of the qualities that I praised about preamplifier are preserved. But there is a slightly different tonality because after all here we do have gain, we do have amplification on board, whereas preamp is just buffering signal and letting other external speaker amplifiers do the punch and dynamic things. So with headphone outputs, I can still notice that great detail retrieval that once again includes fantastic inner tone detailing and just harmonic richness and upper harmonics. And if we are talking about the bass line, it goes deep, and there's just a fantastic punch and slam and aggressiveness in a positive way coming from the bass section of this headphone amplifier. But the thing is that I cannot detect any sort of bass warmth because this bass line is so firmly controlled, so grippy, so energetic, and it really truly does start and stop on a dime, that this is one of the, if not the fastest sounding headphone amplifiers that I've ever heard. On the opposite side of spectrum, with highs, the same thing is true as it was for the preamplifier. Now highs are really well extended, they're open, airy, breezy, they create a sensation of lots of air around you and in between instruments, but there is no edginess, glare, or sharpness, like being overly sharp. Positive sharpness in terms of just natural high resolution is there. So to cut it short, just fantastic sounding headphone amplifier with heaps of power and punch and drive and also control. And I quickly realized that probably none of my headphones that I have at home will fully stress this headphone amplifier because it is a beast. I made an arrangement with an acquaintance of mine so we could try his hifi Susvara, that's the end of the line hifi headphone that is really demanding, really difficult to drive, and he personally is driving them with a benchmark speaker amplifier. Obviously, many owners of those headphones are using them that way because they're very, very demanding. And Harmony here did not have any problems driving them, controlling them, making them sound very punchy, dynamic, and just very alive. And the owner of these headphones was surprised himself. As I said, he is using speaker amplifier. So I suppose that choosing these MOSFETs, Hexicon MOSFETs, and opting for that high voltage, high power really pays with really, really demanding headphones. For comparisons, unfortunately, if you follow my channel regularly, you know that I'm dedicated more to speakers and my room setup than to my head-fi setup. So to be perfectly honest here, I do not have anything that could challenge this headphone amplifier. The best I could do is to compare it to, once again, Aune S17 Pro, which is also big, chunky, hot running and really powerful headphone amplifier that runs in Class A mode. And it has very powerful, tonally rich and punchy sound itself. But when you compare them directly, you can notice that Harmony is having even greater detail retrieval and especially greater bassline grip and control. Something you do not notice with S17 Pro in isolation, when you compare them directly, it feels a bit slow and almost sluggish in the way it goes about bassline punches and beat. And a part of that warmth is very pleasant, but if you listen to Harmony for some time and its fantastic pace and timing and control, and you get used to that, going back to S17 Pro feels like it's a bit muddier, slower, not as quick to react, and not as quick to reveal bassline texture and mid-range details and just the space around you. And if you use some more budget-friendly and more amplifier-friendly headphones, that gap decreases. If you use something like hifi and Susvara, that gap increases quite a bit and differences become more and more obvious. So it was very clear to me that Harmony headphone amplifier is performing on another level compared to S17 Pro. And as I said, unfortunately, I do not have something that would truly challenge Harmony in terms of a headphone amplifier. But from what I can hear like this is definitely a top-tier, world-class performer, both as a headphone amplifier, but also as a preamplifier. And I truly, really didn't expect that. I was thinking this is going to be a headphone amplifier first, and then that preamp section is going to be some sort of afterthought. But it's not. And I dug around a bit and I found some pieces of info on the web that this whole device was actually intended to be a preamplifier first. They were aiming at a great preamp and then like having a decent headphone amplifier on board with that preamp. But it seems that Laiv has many really skilled engineers. They got carried away and then they decided, no, we are going to make like a really great performing preamp, but also really great performing head amp all in one. And I think they achieved their goals. This is a product that is by no means cheap at $2,700, but its performance is something that, first of all, very few brands in the world can achieve. No matter how much they try, not everybody can create a device that sounds this transparent, yet this natural and non-tiring and non-edgy. It's just a top-tier, high-end performance. Second of all, among these few brands in the world that can produce a top-tier device like this, most of them would ask more. They would price the device that performs like this more. And I believe that when I reviewed Harmony DAC, I said something like, Laiv as a brand is going places. And I still stand by that. Laiv as a brand is going places. They are continuously bringing high-end performance at prices that are not cheap, but not as high as most brands would ask for that really high level of performance. And I am really, on a personal level, excited to see other products from Laiv. Not as a reviewer, but personally, on a personal level. I wait to see what they're going to do with their speaker power amplifiers. They're preparing some gun-based power amps that I'm eagerly awaiting, because now I have an even better sense of what to expect from these guys, and I expect a lot. So with that said, and before you all accuse me of becoming a Laiv fanboy, I hope you like this video. See you next time.